Okay. Swagatam Suswagatam. Welcome. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyantimirandasya Gananjara Sharakaya. Chakshumiritam Yena Tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Shvapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Ahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Samjivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jgatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kansane Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Shabanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Van Sakalpa Tarubhya Shakri Pasu Patitan Pavani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Jananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Okay, so please give me a little recap on the last Sunday class.
Actually, they were just talking about, and that what is stuck in my mind is Setra and Shetagnya.
Yeah.
As activities.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, but okay, go ahead.
And also, we read along in verse 8. There was different qualities of the devotees, and it's very long, elaborate purport.
Yeah, the process of knowledge is called.
Process of knowledge.
Yeah.
And also it's a talk about material natures, the living entities, and how we have to understand them.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is activities of the body, and how, we have Krishna is the source, is knowledge, is a goal of knowledge. And
yes,
it's the source of all knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah. When you get lost in this chapter, because it's a bit technical, there's a little tip. You go back to 13.1. So in Arjuna is in 13.1 is asking 6 topics: Prakriti, Purush, Kshetra, Kshetragya, Jnanam, and Gyayam. This is 13.1. So it's always, this is the, I would say, the mission statement, like these are the first 6 questions and they are important. And all along the chapter, Lord Krishna is going to answer bit by bit, is going to answer those 6 topics. But they are, I have to admit, they are erratically laid out. So I had given you long back, I think in the beginning of the chapter, I had given you where the answers are lying. Did I give you that or not? I forgot.
Yes, Prabhu. I think you told us last time.
Yeah, because Lord Krishna systematically, even though it's not done in a sequential manner, but yet he answers those 6 extremely accurately, as usual, throughout the chapter. Of course, we have to be able to locate them. So I will help you for that. Do you want to add up anything, Vignesh?
Yes, Prabhu, like basically last time, like we basically discussed about starting from verse 8. So 8 to 12 has to decide that it's about Gyan. Then we discussed about Gyaya, the object of the knowledge, like the one who is the knower of the knowledge in 13 to 19. Then we discussed about Prakriti and Purush in the last 6 verses from 2026. And
Yeah.
that's how we ended last lecture. So
Okay,
today we
wonderful.
from 27.
This is, yeah, you are quite precise. That's the way it should be. Yeah. You know, we have to be, it's mentioned at the end of the chapter that this chapter should be understood with the help of the Guru. It's a very important chapter. Remember, we are in the sixth last chapter, so obviously we're dealing with Jnana Yoga. And this is extremely pertinent. Nature, Prakriti, Purush, and consciousness. Actually, if you ask me, this topic should be taught in the psychology school around the world. Everything is there. When you look at 13.4, look it up, 13.4, it's so precise. Brief description of the field of activity, that's kshetra, then how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who is the knower of the field, and the influences. So, I mean, we're talking about key issues, isn't it? And it would behoove the psychology schools around the world to deal into that. You know, and they just speculate. Of course, they may at times come up with something bona fide, but very rarely, or most of the time, it's passed on. It's called Aroha point, and this ascending process. Who can be more precise and absolute than Lord Krishna? You follow, Goloka?
Yeah.
By the way, before I forget, Goloka, I really liked your topic, USA. Huh? I got to know you better about how you joined and your state of mind in Mauritius in those days, 79. Because I came much later. I came in Mauritius, 95, much later. And I know Shnikatan, I know Arjun, all this. It's nicely mentioned how you run away from home, basically. Actually, that's what it takes. You know, this is, especially for a young girl like this, it takes courage. You know, you have to be brave. You know.
Yeah, otherwise I will never be able to practice at home. So just get me married to somebody.
Yeah, of course. This is braveness. Yeah. This is brave. This is braveness. You know, I was very impressed. Especially for Hindu girl, it's not easy. Huh? White girls, they do that all the time, but the Hindu girl is different. So I thank you for that. I before I forgot, I wanted to mention that. Yeah, so let's get into 1326 onwards. So my question was, okay, let's hear 26 first. Goloka, you can read out 26.
Okay. Verse 26, again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death.
Yes. So this is a very applicable verse in today's society. And why is it so? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, today most of the people are not philosophically inclined. So most of the people just want to like listen, like a second-hand kind of way of understanding the knowledge. They don't just want to get into the depth of like reading books or shastras. Yeah. So by hearing, they can gain a lot of things like through podcasts and all those different things that we have today.
Exactly. Even I noticed in my own lifetime, the reading propensity has decreased quite a bit. That's why I'm pushing it in my boy. He's going to be 8 now. I'm pushing it. I'm telling him reading is the key point. My father was not a devotee, but he was pushing reading like anything. And I will never, of course he's gone, but I will never thanking him enough, because from reading you get everything else, basically. And what to speak if you start reading Shastra. But
But
yet,
nowadays everything is audio, everything, everybody like is hearing more.
exactly.
All the
Because
time they have the earphone, they're hearing something.
they're hearing something. So that we have to go with the trend. And what does it say here? Mrityu Shruti Parayanaha. They can also transcend birth and death. If they worship by hearing, it's quite interesting. The upasate, I think it says. Upasate Shrudvanye Byo Upasate. If they begin to worship the Supreme, it entails you have to hear bona fide spiritual things. If you listen to Mick Jagger all day, that's not going to help you. So, but again, they have the same benefit as those basically who are conversant with Tadvadarshin, Tadvadarshi, who are on par with the know of the absolute truth. So, and I was asking, does it ring a bell with a verse from the 3rd chapter? I think Vignesh, you quoted 4 verses, so you are kind of enlarging the chances to be right. And amongst the 4, it is there. I was thinking of 326.
326, that's what I did.
Wow. So now you're talking.
It's good I got it.
Yeah, 326 is the preacher's verse.
Yeah.
It's a very important verse. It's called the preacher's verse. Nabudi bedam janayet, joshayet savakamani, vidvan yukta samachara. I think it goes like this, 326, let's see. Don't disrupt the mind of the ignorant who are attached to the fruits. On the contrary, try to induce them to all kinds of activities of work in the realm of Krishna consciousness. You should never disrupt them. I used to do the same with my father. My father was quite a Suram Bhavamashrita, but he was a very good artist. And each time in those days I had Jagannath deities, wooden, they would decay with time. I was after so many prolonged abhishek. Please, Father, can you please repent them? Yes, I will do it. So this is a Geta Sukriti. Little did he know that actually he's doing Krishna consciousness. And one time, he tricked me. I remember he was quite sharp in one sense. I was telling him, you got to serve Krishna. I was kind of shy with him, but sometimes I would spew it out. I said, you have to serve Krishna. Then he goes one day, he told me, I'm serving Krishna devotee. Wow, and I was frozen.
I know.
I just froze. He hit it right on the nail. And I was defeated. So you can see that the truth can be spoken by from any jiva. And I just kept quiet because he hit it on the nail. It's Mad Bhakta, of course, not that I'm a devotee, but Mad Bhakta Pujabhyatika. But by serving a devotee, he hit me like this one time, and I was struck. So definitely, this is very important verse 26, and basically this is the whole vista of Krishna, of modern Krishna consciousness. Basically, ISKCON has been open for that purpose only. So this is a very important verse, definitely. Let's see. Prabhupada says here in 73 in Mumbai, yes, we have opened this, we are opening centers just for that purpose. So that the Gokaras, Gokara means the asses and the cows, their consciousness are no better than animals, Narapashu, Dvipashu. For them only we are opening. Okay, and if you want to add up, feel free to intervene. Otherwise, we'll move on to.
What are the other four verses at the Vignesh put?
Oh, Vignesh. Okay, go ahead, Vignesh.
Yeah, so I was basically referring to the verse 2021 of King Janaka, where he talks about Loka Sangraha, and 25-26 again Krishna talks about Loka Sangraha, like basically for the people we should do or act in a such a way that others, common people, should follow us, right? That is that thing in the Karma Yoga in chapter 3. So basically, like if we have a spiritual leadership, then common people will hear from us and they will follow what we speak. Otherwise, if they don't have a proper spiritual leadership like we have it today, then people in general will be misled and they will not get the opportunity of hearing. They will hear something wrong and they will be misled. But if we have a proper spiritual leadership, like King Janaka, Krishna gave example, so that others can follow. Of course, they will follow by hearing, right? Hearing is one of the means by which people listen and then practice in their own life. So that was what I was trying to make a connection there.
Yeah, it's
That through
totally
Shrutva, we can use Loka Sangraha. We can do our achar so that we can accordingly make a prachar like that.
exactly. No, it was, your answer was totally on the point. This reminds me of the Namahat program as launched by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Bengali villages in the 19th century. He had opened 20,000 such Namahata centers. Because people, in those days, even now, what you speak in those days, they're mostly illiterate. So, they listen at night from the grandfather Mahabharat in Itihas. So now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was quite avant-garde. He figured out, okay, let's have a leader. Let me train a leader in the village, and in turn, he will train others. And he would give them rewards. You chant 4 rounds, this is your reward. You chant 8 rounds, this is your reward. Namahat, the marketplace of the holy names. And this way, they will train each other. He would appoint one leader in each village, then sub-leaders, So people feel connected and they feel, well, I'm into a system here. There's a system going on, They feel enthused. Oh, how many rounds are you chanting? I'm chanting 4. I got my gift. Did you get your gift? It's like that. Let me do it also. I want to get the gift. That's common human nature,
We can encourage people in that way.
Yeah, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was an extremely practical person. He was a deputy magistrate himself, so it's way down to earth, totally down to earth.
That's why when we go to Harinam, we, people just hear the holy name.
Yeah.
Like that.
Exactly.
We don't tell them, you have to become Hare Krishna. We just let them hear the holy name.
From what I understood, from what I gathered from the books of Prabhupada, never did he say the whole world has to be converted. Did you notice he always says, even if a small portion becomes Brahmin, then I think the figure is very low even. I'm forgetting the exact figure he gave. Even a small, sorry?
I think he told somewhere 1%, even if 1% of the population, something on that lines.
Because 1326, if they are keen on listening, and people are quite passive in general, even material leaders are rare. What to speak of spiritual leaders? People are, if they feel confident, they will follow. They can detect this person has qualities. And why Gandhi was so much followed and loved, because he had, to some extent, he was a real brahmachari. I mean, I don't know if it's true. I've been reading 2 sides of Gandhi. I heard he was staunch brahmachari, Prabhupada seems to say. But then I read later, I don't know how far it's true, that he was associating with young girls. Is it true, Vignesh?
I just hear the speculation. I'm not sure on that. I cannot
Yeah.
validate.
Prabhupada did say that he became powerful because of his staunch brahmacharya.
Prabhupada had a different opinion, like in the early 50s and 60s, like when he used to write BTG articles, he used to praise a lot him. But then later in 60s, 70s, but discussing with his disciples, he gave a different slant while
Yeah.
discussing about.
But yet he said in Calcutta, don't criticize Gandhi. I may criticize because I'm older, but no, you cannot.
Yeah.
And the devotees report that Prabhupada could on the same morning walk in Calcutta, beginning of the walk is criticizing Gandhi, and they came across a statue of Gandhi, and Prabhupada is paying his homage. So Prabhupada can be like this, apparently two-sided,
Yeah,
but it's on a very high level. We cannot imitate.
About the hearing sing, one thing I observe, sometimes you see on YouTube, like in India, some of these, and some of them, like the devotees from Vrindavan, they give like, lectures, like Bhagavad Gita, like we can see, like the pandal is so full with people. People are so, they sit down there for
In
1 hours, just listen, hearing about, about Krishna.
Yeah, but unfortunately, oftentimes those professional
All
reciters.
the sampradaya, but they're bona fide, they're like.
Mostly they are ladies, like who come there. They're mostly ladies, and they like to hear a lot of pastimes.
Yeah.
Less philosophy, but more of pastimes.
Exactly. Professional reciters, Sapta, what do you call it? Sapta.
Bhagavad Sapta.
Bhagavad Sapta. Prabhupada warned us to be wary about those because they make money on the side. And anyway, so let's carry on. 27.
It's Vignesh turn to read.
27. O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field.
Yeah. So here we are entering up to 35 at least, description of consciousness. It's quite interesting now. So again, all these verses remind me, this one in particular rings a bell exactly the same, basically, way back in the let's say 7th chapter. I don't know if you can remember. Remember, in that beginning of the 7th chapter, he goes, Bhumira Purnalovayu, Kamando Buddhadevacha. Then he goes 7.5. Aparayam Itasvanyam Prakriti Vinime Param Jiva Bhuta Mahabaho Yajiram Dajate Jagat. And then 7.6, what does he say? 7.6, remember?
All that is material and that is spiritual in the world, no. So
yeah, I'm behind both, Arjun. I'm behind Para Prakriti, as described in 7.4, and I'm behind Para, as described in 7.5. I'm the origin of both. And doesn't look the same like 1327? It's quite similar. Huh? You follow, Vignesh?
Yes,
I would say it's a reconciliation. Buddhajan used to call them reconciliation verses. So in one sense, 7.6 is a bit higher, but still we're talking about the same tattva here. Basically, it implies Shastra Shakshu. If we are not realized, if we are not Param Siddhanta or Mahapurush ourselves, then doesn't matter in one sense. Through Shastra, we should, the vision of knowledge, we should admit the difference, the difference between body, honor, super soul, and be able to recognize the process of liberation, basically. So do you want to say anything, Goloka or Vignesh?
I think the second question, right? You gave this as a second question. So I just came up with another verse like 7.2. I find it also relatable. Like when Krishna talks about the phenomenon and the numinous world.
Noumenal and phenomenal.
Yeah. So I equated that with this, like Kshetra and Kshetragyo. Phenomenal as Kshetra and numinous.
Yeah, excellent. That's a good pick. That's a very good pick. So, and did you notice that oftentimes Srila Prabhupada does that? He paraphrases verses. Just like at the beginning of 27, the first sentence is a verse. Which verse is that, by the way? Both material nature and the jiv, which were existing before the creation of the cosmos, I explain in this verse. We just covered, I mean, you must have covered it with Chandra, but do you see which verse is paraphrasing here? Prabhupada is interweaving verses, just like a garland. You have seen Mataji's oftentimes, they make garlands for Krishna. So in the same way, you can make a garland of verses. What he does, Prabhupada interweaves shlokas in his purports, just like garlands, or even a portion of a verse, even a word. And if you're not familiar, then you may even ignore that. But with a closer look, you will notice actually it's a verse paraphrased in his own words. Can you see?
3.27 purport.
Yeah, look at this very first sentence of 27. Yeah. Both material nature and the living entity, which were existing before the creation of the cosmos, I explain in this verse. Where did we discuss that Prakriti and Jiva Anadi? Just like a few verses ago, I guess. 2021. Yes. Prakriti and Purusham Sheva, Vijanadi Ubhavapi. Both Prakriti and Purusham Anadi. Vikaram Jagunam Sheva, their transformation between them, transformation of matter and spirit, basically. Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavan, they are just, it's like a closed circuit. First of all, those two tattva are Anadi, okay? Number two, the transformations between Prakriti and Purush, and the modes, by the way, also, are just products of Prakriti. So whatever happened in this material world is just an internal happening. Do you follow, Goloka?
So what is it? Who is affecting of this combination? I don't understand that.
Yeah, that was a very simple question. It's mentioned in 27. Krishna is doing it. That's a very simple question. Not complicated. The Supreme Lord is affecting this combination. Because his master, 7.6, 13.27, is master of both. He's master of para and he's master of apara prakriti. But we have to understand, according to 13.20, we should not have a car, as they say in America. We shouldn't fret over many things. Because whatever we are impacted with, it's just interactions of the modes on the jiv. It has no absolute reality. You understand? It's all asat. You know, it's all transformations of the modes. Let's put it this way. Tejo varimidam yata vinimayu yatrati sago mrisha. This is 111 just today. It's just transformations, vikarams, shagunam sheva. It has no reality in one sense. Just like 216. Remember? 216. How does it go, Vignesh? 216. You know, talking about Sat. Whatever is Sat doesn't change. Nabhava nividyate sataha. Nabhava vidyate sataha. Nabhava. So whatever changes is asat. It doesn't endure. Whatever doesn't change is sat. So all these transformations of the modes are apparently impacting us, affecting us, has nothing to do with ourselves, the soul. So we should not overreact to it, because it's just transformed. Let's say you've been humiliated, badly. You've been exposed for something. It's tough, your ego is crushed. But after 10 days, 2 weeks, 5 months, 5 years, it's just gone with the wind. It's asat. Of course, there's a lesson to be gleaned, in terms of Krishna consciousness. There's always a lesson to be gleaned. But my father used to, my guru actually is my father also. He used to say, when something heavy happens to you, try to think in terms of the glands of Mahavishnu on Pradhan. Or it's insignificant, whatever happens to us. We're talking about a microsecond. Compared to, remember the Nimesh, when Mahavishnu cast a glance on Pradhan, it's called a Nimesh. Nimesh means 1/11th of a second on the level of Mahavishnu. You understand, Goloka? In one Nimesh, the whole spectrum of material energy expanding and retracting, Nirodha, is happening. One Nimesh. So it's mind-boggling. So we should not take the turbulences of this world too seriously. You follow, Goloka?
Yeah.
So in one sense, Baladev Vidyabhushan explained that Prakriti and the Jiv, they have been united since time immemorial. That's why we tend to associate the two together. We are thinking, I remember I used to have discussions with my mother. She would say, yes, the soul exists, I agree, but it's totally blended with the body. No. And I used to argue, quoting Gita, no, it's separate. But because they fall into the trap, because those two have been united since time immemorial. So that is why in this section of the Gita here, we are talking about the eternal separatedness. You follow? Because we have to understand combinations of the Jiv and Prakriti, it's everywhere. Like this mic, this table, this wood, this watch. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you look at is a combination of Prakriti and Purush. Explain to me, Goloka, why. This watch, can you see the watch? It's a combination of Prakriti and Purush. Why?
Oh, it's created by material elements.
Yes.
And Purush is utilizing it.
Yeah, but even more, yes, good start. You want to complete, Vignesh?
Yeah, like it has been created with the material ingredients, like what we call upadan, and we also have efficient costs. Like ultimately, the person who has invented that or made that with the help of all the elements is a person, a consciousness. By that logic, a Purusha and Prakriti both together makes that watch. Both are required.
Associated with each other.
So this watch basically has got Bhumila Punalovayu, the 5 elements. There is some mind. The guy has been putting thinking, willing, feeling, vikalpa, sankalpa. He has been accepting this, perhaps later rejecting the process. It has not bona fide. He changed his mind, as we say. I changed my mind. That's what it means. I changed my mind. It means I'm going on another process. Buddhi is there. Definitely Buddhi is there. He has used his material intelligence, no doubt. And ego. You may say, well, I want to patent this watch. It's mine. It's my invention. I don't want someone else to steal it. It's ego. Let me patent it. So 7-4 is there, but 7-5 is definitely there also, because 7-5 Jiva Bhuta Mahabaho. There's a jiv behind this watch. And 7-6, Krishna says, I'm behind the jiv, and I'm behind the prakriti. So 1327, 7-6 is the same. So this chapter is extremely analytical. So even though we've been mixed since time immemorial, it doesn't mean we are not separated. We have always to remember. We can be, this is the whole process of Krishna consciousness, to disentangle ourselves from material affairs. So the jiv is a part and parcel of Parabrahman. So the jiv is internal Shakti. We know that. But because, of being in contact with material energy, is an emanation of both, basically, is an emanation of material and spiritual energies. Because we, unfortunately, what is the portion of us which is contaminated? Because we say, Asango Yayam Purusha, the soul is always pure. So if the soul remains pure, even in a giraffe, what becomes contaminated then?
The association with the free mode of nature.
Yeah, but which element of us, of ours, becomes contaminated? The soul remains pure. We will discuss very soon now. The soul doesn't mix, just like the air. And the air comes in front of a junkyard, a stool pit. And the air may convey the odor of stools. But is the air contaminated? Is the air impure?
No.
No.
There's the mind and the senses and
The consciousness, Goloka. Remember, the consciousness we discussed is the symptom of the soul. The consciousness becomes contaminated, no doubt. But the soul itself, that never mix with anything, even though it is within matter. Just like air is within the creation, it doesn't, just like ether, Akash, it's even better with Akash. It doesn't become contaminated. So Krishna is beyond, and in one sense, we are also beyond. But unfortunately, due to over-identification, we totally identify ourselves. Just like if your son becomes a rascal, let's say becomes a hoodlum, becomes a bandit, and the guy is going to get life imprisonment. There's nothing to do with you. I mean, you live perhaps the other side of the world. You understand? So technically, you're not affected. But yet you are extremely affected. You cannot sleep at night. You know your son's going to be perhaps beheaded due to his crimes or life imprisonment. And you're trying to get hold of him, send some money, try to appease or alleviate the situation. But why are you doing it? Goloka or Vignesh or anyone. Why are you doing it?
Because we are attached.
Yes, because you're so attached to that son, even though he becomes a murderer. So in the same way, we have nothing to do with matter, but yet, due to over-binding, over-attachment, karma bandhana.
I'm just thinking, why the super soul allow us to become attached? Because it give us independent. I know
But
I
you
can
know,
answer
you know the
dependent.
answer. 929. What is 929?
929.
Remember, Samoham Savabhuteshu Namedveshustina Priyaha. That's Paramatma. Then at the end of 929 is Krishna. But he who becomes my friend, I become his friend. So he's neutral. Udasinavad, we discussed 9.9. It's like a judge, is condemning this one to life imprisonment. Next guy is going to admit that yes, the state has mishandled you, and the state should give you 5 million euros in order to compensation money. And the judge he can sleep at night, even though today he sent someone to die. So Paramatma is like that. He's neutral. Anything you want to add up, anyone? So 28.
One who sees the super soul accompanying in the individual soul in all bodies, and who understand that neither the soul nor the super soul ever destroy actually sees.
Yeah, these are beautiful verses. So we are talking about description of separate existences between Prakriti and Jivis. And someone who sees like that is the real knower of things. Remember, we discussed way back 13.3. There's two knowers. What are the two kshatragya, Goloka?
Soul and the super soul.
Yeah.
What the two?
Yeah. So we have to admit, this is basically Sambandha Gyan. That's what it means, Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan means the triangle. Which there's triangle, there's three angles, triangles. What are the three angles of Sambandha Gyan? I used to call this chapter the invisible triangle. I nicknamed this chapter the invisible triangle. I remember when I was teaching in Navan Mayapur. Why? What are the three angles?
Like Jiva, Prakriti, and Ishwara.
Exactly. Sambandha Gyan means you understand those three tattva and their respective mutual connections. What's the connection between Jiv and Prakriti and vice versa? Connection between Prakriti and Paramatma and vice versa, and connection between Paramatma and Jiv and vice versa. There's two-way traffic on each, between each tattva, it's a two-way traffic. And someone who knows that, understand these sambandhas, this is basically 1328. We will discuss in the 15th chapter, 15:10. The Buddha, what is that verse? They cannot see even the Vimudha. They cannot even apprehend or comprehend how they leave the body. But those Jnana Chakshusha, those who are endowed with Jnana Chakshu, they can understand what's going to happen at death. So this is knowledge, and when you understand the two kshatragya, and you understand the Prakriti. That is why Parameshwar, that was a very simple question here. Parameshwar can refer to
both the super soul and the soul always exist together.
Just like you discussed with Chandra, I guess, last week, Purusha Prakriti Stohi. Bhunte Prakriti Chandra. There's a few verses you have seen, 13, 20, 21, 22. Purush. In those verses, Purush refer to the Jiv. Even though we are Prakriti, right? We discuss in 7.5. Jivabhuta Mahabaho Yajidam Dajati Chakat. We are definitely Prakriti, we are Para, but we are called Purush in 20, 21, 22, because we want to load it over. So Krishna knows that, and so much so that he calls us accordingly, even though we are Prakriti. Aham Brahmasmi, we are subordinate. Jivaras Varupoi, Krishna Jivaras, Krishna Tatashta Shakti, Beda Beda Prakash. We are definitely subordinate in Tattva. But Krishna doesn't mind calling us Purush a few times in the Gita. He knows those rascals are so much wanting to load it over. Let me call them Purush, actually. You know.
Prabhu, I have one question.
Yeah.
Like Purush, I think it connotes identity that is an enjoyer, right?
Yeah.
So basically, in later, I have read that 15, 16, that Krishna talks about two Purush, like Shara and Akshara.
Yeah.
Their translation that is given is that one are the conditioned living entities and others are liberated living entities.
Yeah.
So here Krishna talks about Purush even for liberated living entities. So, but then in liberation, like after we attain Golok, then we don't have an enjoying mentality, right? So technically, can we be called Purush or Prakriti after attaining liberation?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I asked this question, kind of similar question to Bhaktivinoda Puri Maharaj, remember. My question was, it's a bit different from you, but quite close. My question was, do we retain our jiva nature when we move back into the spiritual world? Don't we become Shakti Tattva, because we are so much in love with Krishna that he said, no, you retain your jiva nature. Jiva means Tatashta. So at no point, actually, we cannot be Purush. Purush, Krishna calls us Purush in 21, 22 because of this false identification. But in Tattva, we are Prakriti. We will always be Prakriti. So in the spiritual world, we are totally 100% in our ontological position of Jiv, pure Jiv. And we are moving in Prema ladder. So there's 12 levels in Prema Bhakti. So we are totally engrossed in our ontological Sarup Siddhi position. And we are meant to be enjoyed, Prabhupada said by Krishna. This is the ultimate perfection. We are meant to be enjoyed. Just like, Prabhupada gives a very, very base, very down to earth example. He says, just like a woman is meant to be enjoyed by her husband. So in the same way, we are meant to be enjoyed by the supreme enjoyer. So, and this is the epitome of Prakriti. The epitome of Prakriti is we are female, basically. We are female. Let's put it this way. It's blunt, but we are. Krishna is the only male. Even we men, apparently, we have a male body, Vignesh and I, but that's because we wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna, more so than a female. Though that's why Krishna said, "Okay, you guys want to enjoy more even than a female, so you take a male body." But that's a totally flickering, temporary belonging. It's temporary identification. On the contrary, let's say a man becomes too attached to a woman, Prabhupada says, so much so that when he dies with that mentality, he becomes a woman. Conversely, a woman who becomes too attached to a man, she becomes a man. And you have seen in India, Prabhupada says, a couple is so much in love that they keep on taking birth and marrying again, and sometimes they swap. You become the male and the female, and again, next birth, again they swap. So we are ontologically, Vignesh, we are totally Prakriti. You know, you follow?
Isn't it as they said when you get married, you do the seven circle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You take birth again and again for seven lifetime to be with the same person.
Yeah, but in ISKCON, we have to be careful with that.
Yeah, we
That's
don't.
why you should be married by a Krishna conscious priest. Otherwise, you become enamored. Oh, yes, I'm going to love her. And you can see when you turn 50, 60, you're extremely, you want to get out. Particularly counting the days. Because, life has it on you that you become worn out. Because by the very process of material life mixed with spiritual life, it's a kitri basically. So at the end of the day, you want to come out. You want to break away, even if your wife is Krishna conscious, because you understand that I have to gear up second gear, third gear. I have to move on faster. I'm closer to death now. You understand after some
So
time
is
that
this ritual you think this is only for karma kanda people
yeah, definitely.
made for devotee?
Actually, it has
No,
different meaning.
yeah,
It
go
is not
ahead.
about seven life. That is actually misinterpretation. There are seven vows that they bride and groom take. So there are four vows that has to be fulfilled by I think groom, then three vows by bride. Then people then started saying it's about seven life, but technically, if you go, it's about seven vows that husband and wife should take while fulfilling their journey in one life.
Ah, okay. See, he knows better. Vignesh knows better, as usual.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vignesh. It's a very good point. Anyway, in one sense, we should not finish as a man. We should not finish our lives with a woman. That is why Prabhupada adamantly repeats: we may not, just like the verse, Putra. What is the verse? Pancha Odam Vanam Vrajet. At 50, you hit the forest. At 50, I remarried, so I'm totally off the track. But still, it doesn't mean I'm going to remain with my wife all my life. Neither she wants it, no, I want it. So we have to use our brain intelligence when the boy is 20 or so. Okay, it's a tacit understanding.
I think sometimes Krishna makes some arrangement for you to be detached. You just create some
Yeah.
havoc in your.
Actually, I remember Harikesh. You must have remembered the Goloka Harikesh. Prabhu. He was a great guy, great devotee. He used to say, in one sense, it's good if your marriage doesn't work too well, because it means, just like the father of Prabhupada told Prabhupada. Prabhupada was in love with a different girl. You know the story, And when his father picked up that girl, Prabhupada was not so keen. Actually, Prabhupada said, okay, I'll marry the two. And the father said,
And we were discussing it, and we kind of the negative thing about marriage to a young boy like Vignesh. Sorry, Vignesh.
yeah, actually, that should give you the inner meaning. You should get the inner meaning, Vignesh.
Sorry, Vignesh.
But I mean, he's not a young boy. He has to be aware of the facts of life, If you can avoid it, it's all the best, all the better. Most of the time, Videshis cannot avoid it. This is a problem. Yeah, we don't have the adhikar. But, we have to do it, just like, it's a detour. But unfortunately, it's oftentimes needed because we don't have the adhikar to do without. This is the problem.
If one is sincere, like in his practice of devotion, then he'll get some inner inspiration whether he has to go through that phase or avoid it completely.
Yeah, because once you are into it, you understand why you are. You cannot lie to yourself. You know very well why Krishna married you to that girl. And the girl knows very well why he married me to that man. Because you understand, I have to work on certain aspects, and she helps me for that. So you understand the inner cause. if you are a little connected to Krishna. Okay, so let's move on.
So Prabhu, like just
Yes.
on the last question that I asked, just I want to ask on the same point. You said about like we are all Prakriti, but then I just want to understand there are different types of rasas, right? Sakhya, Madhurya. So
Yeah.
is it right if I say that people who are in Sakhya rasa, they have some kind of Purusha Abhiman or something like that? Or is it like the Prakriti aspect is manifested much in a much greater level in Madhurya Bhava, less in Sakhya and Dasya Bhava?
Oh,
Or
I
something
see
like
what you're saying. We should not mix the two. There's two different tattva here. There's Bhakti Ras tattva. This is one purely devotional ras, purely devotional tattva, and there is ontological tattva, Jiv tattva, Krishna tattva, Vishnu tattva, Maya tattva, or whatever you want to call it, Maya Shakti tattva, Prakriti tattva. So we shouldn't mix the two, because in terms of ras, first of all, it's quite a complex subject. Ras should entail 5 components. You know the 5 components of ras: Sthayi Bhav, Sanchari Bhav, Anubhav. We'll discuss in the southern portion of.
Devotion, huh?
It's not even in the Bhakti Shastra, if you ask me. It's even beyond such. But still, we should look at it in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So you may be, it has to do with your own, I would say, your own inner longing, your lolyam. It has to do with your Svarupsiddhi. That you will get to know way after, when your guru tells you, your Sadguru, I would say. If you have picked up a good guru in Parampara, your Sadguru will help you in that level. Because what happened is, remember, at the level of Raganuga Bhakti, you start focusing on the Ragatmika Bhakta of Vrindavan. You don't so much anymore turn to Krishna. In one sense, you become more focused on a particular Ragatmika Bhakta. And you follow in the wake of that Bhakta, of that great soul. It could be Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda. You want to become a Datri, let's say, a Datri, a nurse. You want to become a Gop. So you're going to start meditating on Subal, on Madhumangal, or a Gopi, you meditate on Vishaka, or Manjari, because we are basically in Gaudiya Math, we are Manjari Bhav. So you meditate, let's say, on Rup Goswami. So it has more to do with affinity with what kind of affinity you're going to develop with a particular Ragatmika Bhakta. And from that Ragatmika Bhakta will definitely, it's going to mold you. That is why once you go into Bhumalila, why do we go in Bhumalila in the first place? Why don't we go straight back? Because this is for the purpose that Ragatmika Bhakta, you're going to take birth in that vicinity of that Ragatmika Bhakta, and then it's going to, finalize the last little touches left, so that you can go back to the spiritual world. So I never heard what you said. I never read that like that. That's according those who are in Madhurya Ras, they have more Prakriti.
Yeah.
I never read that, but
Is that
I think they are more expressive. That's why it comes out like that. But otherwise, many people in that level would it's like they don't have enjoying mentality, right? They anyway, like it is Sakhya, they don't have enjoying mentality at all.
No, they don't have no Purusha Abhiman is not there at all. All they want is the pleasure of Krishna.
It more expresses. I think it looks like it is expresses more in Madhurya. That's why.
Yeah. You're
like
right.
That.
Obviously, it is the epitome, definitely.
Yeah.
But look at the sages of Nandakaranya in Ramayana.
Yeah.
They saw Lord Ram and they were enamored conjunctly. And Lord Ram told him, "Look, it's not my disinclination, but I'll come naturally as Krishna. You can join me then. And they became gopis, those sages. I mean, it's a good question. Perhaps you should ask it to more advanced devotee also. I wouldn't say it's connected. I wouldn't say.
Actually, we're saying Prakriti and Purusha, I mean, who need to be enjoyed. We're not talking in the sense of male and female, is it not?
Yeah, because the only male actually at this level is Krishna. Even you can see in Golila and Krishna Lila, many is mentioned in the book of Kavikanapur, Gologanudesh Dipika, that all the Krishna Lila is mentioning in his book, all the Krishna Lila personages, and most of them were ladies in Krishna Lila, they became men in Golila. Because Mahaprabhu is a sannyasi, he wouldn't have accepted those companions, those parshadas in female bodies. So they just took the garb, they just took the form of a male to associate with Mahaprabhu, but they are female.
They also say that all these, the devotees that in Gaur Leelas, they were manjaris, they were Rupa manjaris, manjaris.
All these great souls like Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy is, if I'm not mistaken, Lalita or Vishaka. Like Chandra, what's his name? Solo Damodar Gosai is 4 persons. Can you imagine?
He's Lalita, then Ramananda Roy is Vishaka.
And also Solo Damodar Gosai is also Arjun, and he's also Gopal Arjun.
Yeah.
It's very hard to reconcile. There's 3-4 personalities in one person. You can see Ramananda Roy, for instance. Actually, I got it backwards. Ramananda Roy, my Guru Maharaj used to say, is Arjun, Gopal Arjun, and also one of the two, Lalita. Vishaka. Because look, in that talk,
is Swarup Damodar. Swarup Damodar used to order, give instruction to Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah.
I heard in one lecture.
Yeah, of course. They are helping Mahaprabhu for that Radha Bhav. And because we could wonder how come Mahaprabhu is Radha Bhav, Suvaritam Nami Krishna Swarupav, he is himself Krishna Swarup, but Radha Bhav in duty. Why Gadadhar Pandit is coming again as Srimati Radharani? It looks like it's another kill. But
we just went to Ratha Yatra there. I heard one lecture from Radhanath Maharaj was telling that Lord Jagannath is Krishna and Lord Chaitanya is Radharani.
Yeah.
So Lord Jagannath always want to see Radharani in Ratha Yatra, like Lord Chaitanya. So one time the cart stopped because Lord Chaitanya just went behind the other cart, behind the Jagannath car. God stop.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, we kind of drifted away a little bit. You understand, Vignesh?
Yes, Prabhu.
This gender consideration is totally irrelevant at this stage. But again, just to finish off on this one, it's mentioned in Bhaktari Rasamrita Sindhu, there is no feelings of inferiority. Oh, she's a gopi, and I'm just how do you say, a plant on the pond, I'm just a lotus on the pond next to Nanda Bhavan, next to Krishna's house. The gopis are there. I'm just a lotus flower. That lotus flower is Sachidananda Vigraha. There's not a feeling of inferiority. Oh, I feel bad, I'm less than the gopis, We don't have this feeling.
Because that would then mean that she has an enjoying mentality to think of that in the first place.
Exactly. And Krishna is so sharp, so much tuned up to each and every devotee, especially in Vrindavan, that is going to make sure is going to relate to that lotus found in his courtyard. Let's say he's gonna, you know the story. He's gonna grab the tail of a calf, and he's gonna fall into that lake, in that pond, and he's gonna splash onto that lotus flower, and the lotus flower will be in bliss. It has touched the body of Lord Krishna. Well,
Yeah.
he fell into the pond, you know. So
Yeah.
there's-
Even the Gopis are the topmost, but Krishna in his Leela spent more time with the coward boys and has more than
yeah, yeah.
the.
You know, it's. I mean, of course, we are talking. It's called in Sanskrit
Mm.
Indriya Paratantra Gyan. There's a difference between Ramanuj is saying that, or Vishwanath, I forgot. There is Indriya Paratantra Gyan, and there is the other one is called, it's written there on my wall, Svata Sadagyan. Svata Sadagyan means Svata Siddhagyan. Svata Siddhagyan means Svata Siddhagyan, it's when the soul, your ontological knowledge, according to your soul, your intrinsic knowledge is being awakened. You know, at the level of Bhav Bhakti, this Vishuddha Tattva is a gift. It can come from your Ragatmika Bhakta, it can come from Srimati Radharani herself. She bestowed a drop of Radhini, Samvit and Radhini mixed, it's bestowed upon you, and then only you can start loving Krishna. And then what happened? Because you, the soul, you are full of eternity, full of knowledge, full of bliss. And this Svata Siddhagyan is being reawakened. You, the soul, becomes reawakened and you have been touched by this drop of Ladini and Samvit Shakti. Now only you can love Krishna. All we are discussing now is Indriya Paratantra again. So we are using our senses, like Kamendriya, Gyanendriya, mostly Gyanendriya actually. We are using our senses to try to understand the absolute truth. So it's great. We cannot do more than that, but it's still Indriya Paratantra Gyan. So you know what I'm saying? It's still, we are trying to grab the knowledge with our materially coated senses. So there will be limitation to that. You follow, Vignesh?
Yes, please.
You know, that is why we are, whatever we say, or I say, or you say, or she says, it's going to be limited by our Indriya. You know, so the bottom line is we have to become realized. On at least Bhav Bhakti, you get that. This is a gift. This is a gift. You get this Vishuddha Tattva. It's bestowed upon you. Okay, let's move on. Where are we?
29.
Okay, go ahead.
Is that you, Vignesh?
Either one, either or.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me too?
29.
Yeah, I think it's 29, whatever she says, you know. You want me to read it, or? One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere in every living being does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus, he approaches the transcendental destination. So basically, we're talking about Brahma Bhut here. He's a Nirgun Bhakta. He doesn't degrade himself by the mind. And this is exactly the contrary that's happening in human society. It's a destructive mentality in society today. They degrade themselves with the mind, with the help of the mind, full swing, abortions. So this is, by the way, 1820, I think. One who sees the undivided spiritual nature in all beings sees in a mode of goodness. Go ahead.
One who can see all the activities are performed by the body, which is created or material nature, and sees that the self does nothing actually sees.
Yeah. So of course it sounds like the fifth chapter. I don't know if you recall. Remember there's a similar verse in the fifth chapter. We try to find it. In the meantime, try to come up with it.
5:14, I know.
Yeah, wow. You're talking. Goloka. Exactly. 5:14. Naka Chidvam Nakamani Lokasya Srijati Prabhu Nakama Falsam Yogam Svabhavastu Pravartate. The embodied spirit, master of the city, of this body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of nature. Exactly the same. So it's a yantra, yantra rudani maya, yeah. By the way, I would say also it answers or it develops. Remember in 13.4, it says, whence it is produced. Krishna is saying in 13.4, whence it is produced, basically the body. It answers here. Body is created of material nature. We know that. It's a repetition, but see, Krishna doesn't forget anything. It's coming from the natural body. But it's very interesting. People will be blown away. We don't do anything. As long as you are conditioned, you don't do anything. It's so enacted by the modes. Of course, you may say, who is above the modes? Who's the,
Krishna.
yeah, Krishna is telling Prakriti, Durga, Maya, and Maya works through the modes. Nothing new. Of course, it's not even Krishna, it's Paramatma, basically. Okay, 31.
When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception.
This is interesting because this verse, if it's not, just imagine it is not explained by Srila Prabhupada, it can have a slight impersonalistic slant to it, isn't it? When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he now sees beings expanded everywhere. See, if you're not careful, don't you think it can have an impersonalistic slant?
Yeah, attain to Brahman conception.
You could, well, okay, I fully agree. There's no identities. We have identities because of material bodies. I agree. So then we just dump the material bodies, then we dump the identities. We are expanded everywhere. Yes, that's Brahman. We are Brahman. So how do you defeat that guy? Because basically he's saying we are Brahman. Brahma Bhut. So you have to take it from there.
And also the Parabrahman is there.
Yes, very good.
Krishna,
Very good.
soul and the super soul always exist together.
And then you tell him, what else you want to tell him, Vignesh?
Like when we become Brahman, it did not necessarily mean that we become one with God. It simply means that we remain untouched from the matter. We become transcendental from the three modes of material nature, because that one of the meaning of Brahman is that it is completely transcendent to Prakriti. So we are situated, like Krishna later talks about, like Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate.
Yeah.
After doing Bhakti Yoga, we become Brahma Bhuya. So we attain Brahman. So that is
Exactly.
completely in agreement with even our understanding. It doesn't mean that literally we become one with God.
Exactly. So that's a very good point. We are Brahma Bhuta. We are Aham Brahmasmi, basically. So why do we get so many various bodies? Because when you boil it down to what it is, we have discussed in 7.4, Binna Prakriti Ashtada. Those 8 elements, Binna, Prakriti, Ashtada means 8. Krishna says, they are Vibhinna, they are Binna, they are separated from me. Still, they belong to me. So first of all, we don't own the bodies, number one. 15.7, Mavemancho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha. Krishna says, all the souls belong to me, Arjun. Number 2, we don't own our own body, our own soul, sorry. We don't own our own soul. So what's left? We don't own the body. We don't own the soul. What's left? Goloka.
Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, the eternal soul.
Yeah, so, but we don't even own our soul. Krishna says, belongs to me.
Super soul.
Yeah, 15 cents. So what are we left with?
Of free will.
Sorry?
Like we own our free will. There's
Yeah, I would say, to be more specific, desire.
Desires.
The only thing when you boil it down to what it is, the only thing the jiva possesses, and that Krishna cannot grab it from him. Even Krishna cannot force us to love him. Otherwise, it's no more love. So we have to explain to the guy, to the impersonalist, that, my dear sir, due to your different desires as a jiva, you're going to undertake different bodies, 8 million.4, as ordained by Paramatma, because it's in your heart. He can smell your inner desire. And if you deserve it, of course, if you may not deserve it, he will not do it then. But if you deserve it, it will provide you the right body in order to fulfill your wayward desires. But all this to do as, just like 13.20, we discussed, Purusha Prakriti Stohi, Prakriti Purusha Sheva Vijanadi Ubhavapi, Vikaram Shagunam Sheva Viri Prakriti Sambhavan. So you tell him, my dear sir, remember, whatever happens to you are just interactions between Prakriti and the Purush. And even the modes, the transformations of the modes are just products of material energy. It's all in internal circuit. There's nothing to do with you, the soul per se. Unless and until you have started to redevelop your love for Krishna, you do not do anything. So do something for Krishna, my dear impersonalist, sir. Then you can start claiming you are Brahman. Otherwise, just like 10.2.32, Brahma is visiting Devaki in the prison. She's still pregnant. Ayura Krishna Param Param. What is that verse? Aruya Krishna Param. I'm forgetting the verse. Patonchadaha. You fall down because Yashmat Angriya, they haven't clasped the feet of Lord Krishna. They are considered Alpa Buddhaya. They consider themselves liberated. But it's just a figment of the mind. They are considering themselves on the Brahman platform. It's a figment of the mind. It's not true. It's not true. Alpa Buddhaya. The Buddhi is still contaminated. So if you want to become on the Brahman platform, my dear sir, do something for Krishna. Brahmano hi pratishtha. This is what I would say to the guy. Okay. So anything you want to add up? So the body is a machine.
Krishna explains it later in next verse immediately, like what he means by Brahma. Okay. He explains in the very next verse.
Okay, go ahead.
That it should avoid the confusion for Mayavadis.
Yeah, go ahead.
Those with a vision of eternity can see that the soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled.
Yeah, so we are talking about the same old topic here.
Mhm.
Predetermination. Is everything predetermined beforehand or not? No, we have free will. One devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, well, what if I change my mind at the last minute, Srila Prabhupada? I've planned to do something in details. It's way planned ahead. But at the last minute, I want to trick Krishna. I'm at the last minute, I'm changing my plan. Let's say I've got all my tickets, all my trips is arranged to fly to spend 3 weeks in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Last minute, I change my mind. I go to Tokyo in Japan. Can I trick Krishna in this way? Can I speed up? Can I take Krishna by speed? What do you think, Vignesh?
You can use your free will to do whatever you want.
Yeah. Krishna that can adapt himself in no time. You're going to Tokyo, no problem, my boy. You know the story with death. There's a beautiful story with death. This is, let me try to remember properly. This is a landlord, very rich landlord, and his servant. And the landlord is quite a kripana, and is a bit of on the borderline in terms of legalities. You know, he's doing things black market, and he's always feeling guilty because he did so many touchable activities. You know, so he's always afraid of death, and because he feels guilty. And one time he comes home, he's all panic-stricken, and he's very close to his servant. You know, he's a long-term servant, and he's telling him, "Oh, I heard death is in town. Can you go and check if it's true?" So the servant, he knows his master is always afraid of death. So he goes to the market and he sees death. He has a chat with death. So he's chatting with the death. Are you here for some business, or what are you up to? Well, I'm just, I'm having a stroll here, checking out the place. So the servant comes back and he tells the master, yes, death is in town. So immediately the landlord packs up and go to a far distant city. And then the servant say, yes, my dear sir, I say it's a good move. You're going to catch up. You're going to take death by speed. So then off the master goes. So then the servant is a bit curious. He goes back to the market. And death is about to leave, and the servant asks him, where are you going? Where are you heading off to? Well, I've got an appointment in that city. So this is exactly the story. It goes with that verse. You cannot take Krishna by speed. You cannot take death by speed. So it's a Brahma Bhut vision here. Basically, and this is what we should be aspiring for. As I said before, Asangayam Purusha, we are never contaminated. That's quite amazing, actually. What does contact matter is consciousness, just like the drop of water, of rain. As soon as it touches the soil, it becomes contaminated, becomes muddy. So Buddhajan used to give an example, I remember. He says, the kids run here and there due to avyaya. Avyaya is mentioned here. Avyaya means the energy of the soul. When one is young, body stops suddenly at the end of the day. But as one gets older, exhaustion becomes more and more part of the normal routine until finally one is always exhausted. Similarly, the soul is pushing, always asking for more. But the body can only respond by degrading. The energy of the soul is pushing the body towards death. See? This is the realization of Bodhichan Prabhu. It's very well put. In one sense, you are, of course, Goloka and I, we are a little old. You can see, I don't know about you, Goloka, but I don't feel that I'm less able, even in one sense, I feel more able than when I was young, but I'm confronted to the limitations of my body. Like now I've got this bloody backache, you know? So I can see it's restricting my motions.
Yeah.
But nothing to do with the soul.
Yeah, the body.
Yeah, so
you used to jump and run, and now all kind of pain, all kind of,
And Bodhisattva Prabhu used to tell us, if you see, like I see my boy, he's 8, he's jumping. And yesterday we went to a castle. There's so many castles here. We bought some swords, plastic. So I'm playing sword with him. He's pushing me, let's play, sword. So, I'm getting exhausted, especially with my backache. But then Bodhisattva was saying, if you start, a slight envy of, oh, they're so young, they can still jump and play freely, then Krishna will give you another body. Because again, you are sowing the seed of a young body in your system, in your mind. So if you're not careful, that will fructify.
So what's the best consciousness now to think that we just want to go to Krishna?
Yeah, because we understand, and sometimes I want to tell him, but he doesn't have the brain to understand. I want to tell him, be careful with time. It's going fast, But he wants to play all the time, 7, 8. But I hope he's going to listen to me but I hope. But again, he's gone his free will. He may be my son, but he's gone his own destiny.
The children will learn by their own,
their own choices.
By their own experience, because they're different, individual. Yeah, we may try to tell them so many things, but ultimately it's their will.
And it says here, 32, Nakaroti Nalipyate. I don't know if you remember, long back, Krishna makes the same point. Try to remember, Nalipyate, he uses that verb. Remember, I give you the hint, 4th chapter. The same verb, and I think the same line, Nakaroti Nalipyate. Let's see if I can recall. It's in the, okay, I'll give you the clue, 4:14. Let's see, it says Lipyate.
The words that affect me.
Yes, exactly. Kamabir. Is it 14? No, it's Bhadyate, sorry. But
there's no word that
but it is the same verb, different verb, but same meaning. Kamabir nasa Bhadyate. It says the beginning, Namam Kamani Limpanti. The same verse, Lipyate Limpanti, see? So in other words, this is the proof that, why do we despise death? Because we are not meant to die in the first place. Why people put it under the carpet all the time? Because it's not normal to die. But people cannot relate to it, so they just keep it on. It's taboo. It's a taboo topic. death. Because they don't want to, because they are spirit soul. They're not supposed to be entangled at death. And they know in a moment's notice, we're going to have to leave everything. And it's difficult if I tell you, Vignesh, pack up, go to the Bangalore airport in half an hour, and you have the train ticket. You have to leave now. It's very difficult to leave a place in a moment.
Due to attachment or something?
Yes, and due to entanglement.
Entanglement.
And oh, my wife, what will she do without me? My boy is 7, you know, I have to stay a bit longer. No,
Yeah.
you have to leave this room immediately. Practically, that's why people suffer at death, because it's practically impossible. So many entanglements. But the
Even
soul, sorry?
devotee, even as a practicing devotee, we still feel entangled with so many things.
Yes. It's a big
Because we have the
reminder.
knowledge.
Yeah, it's a big reminder in 32. Avyayam. Avyayam means inexistent. The soul is pushing. The soul wants to leave the body. I'm sick and tired of this body. It cannot fulfill my aspiration. Let me, you know, and unfortunately, if you're not Krishna conscious, you are Kamana Devanechana, you are bound to take another body by dint of superior arrangement. But the soul is pushing. The soul wants to leave immediately. Just like if I tell you, let's go to the airport, you say, no, I'm not. I cannot. I've got to pack up. It's going to take me a couple of days, you know. The soul doesn't want to wait. It's avyayam. The soul is full of inexhaustible. It's full of energy. But of course, yes.
How long does it take us, you know, like to really be ready, you know, be ready?
We have to change. We have to. Govinda Maharaj used to say, I opened a crying school. He didn't say I opened a temple. If you go to Bhubaneswar, it's called Bhubaneswar, Orissa, it says a crying school. He used to say, I'm teaching you how to cry for Krishna, day and night. If you start cruising, it's not going to happen. It's going to take a few lifetimes. You have to cry. Just like a boy or a girl is lost in the supermarket, crying bitterly for the mother. He has no choice. He's finished. His life has shattered on the spot. They're calling on the mic. The little Mike is lost. He's crying like hell. Please come. And the boy doesn't pretend. He's really crying like hell. He knows I'm finished. So this is the Loriam when it comes to the holy names. We have to cry on that level. But Govinda Maharaj should say it's a crying school. But then we can ponder, before we come to 33, as the soul, is the soul nevertheless within the body? Does it combine with it? We may ask. My mother always used to adamantly argue with me. Yes, it combines. Yes, it combines. It's how do you say? It's homogeneous. Homogeneous. No, listen to 33. Is it homogeneous? Go ahead. The sky.
The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all-pervading. Similarly, the soul, situated in Brahman vision, does not mix with the body, though situated in that body.
See, this is quite amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Akash, we are thousands of kilometers away, but due to Akash, the sound is transmitted between us. Because Akash contains sound. Sound is within Akash. So we can hear each other over thousands of kilometers or miles. So in the same way, ether, Akash, doesn't mix with the other gross elements. Akash is subtler. In the same way, the soul, even though it's within the body, it never mixes with the body. Not only the gross, even the subtle body. On the contrary, the soul lends its energy to the subtle body. See, it's a very powerful chapter.
Mm.
Now this
Very
is,
deep,
sorry,
very deep philosophy.
yeah, this is Tattva. Tattva Darshi. They should be all the psychological, the psychiatrists, the shrink, they call them the shrink. This is what they should study. They're going to become expert psychologists, expert shrinks.
I think this is what they should tell to their patients,
Yeah,
psychologists, because
exactly.
they are very attached. Patients like become attached to a lot of things, relationship issue and all those issues. So they can say it's like your actually not your body, it's like your soul, like a sky and analogy they can give from Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, you know, and of course the problem is the material eyes of the jiv do not allow you, even though you are in contact with the body, do not allow you to see because you don't have Yana Chakshu. Just like 1510. What is it? It's exactly the same. 1510. Let me try to remember 1510. Yes, Utkramantam Stitam Vapi Bungyanam Vagunan Vitam Vimuda Nandu Pachanti Gyan Chakshushaha. Exactly the same. The foolish cannot understand how a jiv can quit his body. Nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. See?
Jnana Sakshusha.
Yes. So this is impossible with material eyes to see how the jiv is in contact with the body and how he's going to come out of it after the destruction. No one in science can ascertain this. This is the downfall of material science. They are missing the point, the missing link. There's a book like this, The Missing Link. PhD, master's, degrees, you name it. They're still missing the point. It's right there in the Gita.
Yeah. In the purport, Prabhupada says it required great amount of knowledge understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures heard from a bona fide spiritual master.
Yeah, so it's a very transcendental science. You know, we have to understand, they don't know the subtle thing. Consciousness travels through 118, it's called Nadi. Now you may know Vignesh, 118 main nadis, the vessels. There are numerous channels of pran throughout the body. So when the soul doesn't mix at all with the body, neither with the heart where it resides, nor with the mind. They're thinking, oh, it's in the mind, the soul is in the mind, it's in the heart. It seems to be situated there. But actually the soul, the consciousness travels through the nadis. And the pran will carry the soul, to the next destination.
Why there's some other religion, that very well-known religion, they say the soul is here in mind.
Yeah, they're off the point. Krishna, Prabhupada says Krishna also in the heart, in the region of the heart.
So where did they get this from? That the soul.
Well, they have Upashastra, Upashastra. It's Upadharma, so it's sub-religion, sub-shastra. They're not dealing with Srimad Bhagavatam. But Srimad Bhagavatam, Pramanam, Amalam, Puranam, this is the last word in transcendence. It's finished. There's no need to, even in the court of Brahma, you know that when they meet, they have discourses. The personified respective shastra come in person. Taittiriya Upanishad, please, entering the court of Brahma, please have your say. Now we are receiving Svetasvatara Upanishad. They are personalities discussing. And who's coming at the last? Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada Brahma said, please, let's hear the final word. Srimad Bhagavatam comes. In the court of Brahma, the Shastras are personified. Just imagine. I'd like to be there. I mean, even as an ant, I don't mind. You know. So in other words, we are pure reflections of the Supreme. Bhakti Thakur used different terms, Bimba and Pratibimba. I don't know if you know those books, Vignesh. He says the soul is used with pure reflection of the Supreme. And, like, there was I don't know who gave this analogy, I'm trying to remember. The analogy of gold. Gold can be embedded into rocks. You have seen the gold, how do you call it, the gold, when they drill the earth, to find gold, they have seen gold is embedded into rocks. It's not a chemical reaction forming new compounds. Gold is there. So gold, even though it's embedded into rocks, it has been stratified, it has been under heavy pressure for millions of years. Perhaps that vein of gold is there for billions of years. So you can say, well, the gold has become the rocks. No. It's not a transformation of the rock. No. It's not a chemical reaction of the forming new compounds. No. The gold, is totally different eternally from the rock, which is embedded into. In the same way, the soul, even though jumping from one body to the next at death, even changing universe, Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagavan Jivan, we know, we're jumping from one Brahman to the next, one species of life to the next, but yet we never lose our identity, nor our purity. This is mind-boggling. This is mind-boggling. This is Achinta. This is a very powerful passage of the Gita. And then Krishna is going to drill the point home further, 34.
O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all the universe, so does a living entity, one within the body, illuminates the entire body by consciousness.
Yeah, it is a continuation of thoughts. Same as, it sounds like 17, I think. Let's look at 13, 17. Yes, very close to 13, 17. Although the Super Soul appears to be divided among all beings, is never divided. Is situated as one. Although is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that it evolves and develops all. So, the sun, the verse, Ekadesh Titasagner, Joshta Vishtarini Yataha. The sun has got an orbit. I never understood that point, actually, why that verse says Ekadesh Titasagner, because Vishnu Puran says it's fixed in one spot. But it's not true. I mean, sun has an orbit. Do you have an answer for that, Vignesh? Because
I think sun has an orbit, right?
Yeah. So why does it say Ekadesh Tasyagner, in the Vishnu Puran?
I think it depends on the relative conception, right? If you think from the perspective of our solar system or of this universe, I think it is fixed, right, within that particular universe.
Yeah.
But I think there are multiple universes which are revolving around, I think, one central. I don't know, is it Dhruv or what we call it?
Oh yeah. It's called Dhruvlok. It's called the Polar Star. It's called
universes revolve around that, right? Universes.
Okay. It's a good point. It's a very good point. Thank you for that. Yeah, because Polar Star has no orbit. You're right. It's a
relative conception, I would say. It's a relative from our perspective.
Yeah. Okay. So in the same way, everything revolves around the pole star, but he is using the example of the sun. So in the same way, The spirit soul in the region of the heart illuminate the whole body by consciousness. We discussed way back in the second chapter. The symptom of life is consciousness, basically. So do you want to say anything? Anyone?
Almost time to end, so we can
Yeah,
read the
it's
next-
oh, you're right. You're right. Thank you to remind me. We started
read
at
the
4.
next one. Then we
So
end.
thank you to remind me. We didn't cover much actually. Oh, actually, only one verse left. You're right.
It's the last verse. Yeah.
So in other words, what I'm thinking of is so many times we discussed about the 24 elements, in 7.4 and in Sri Show we discussed, Kshetra, Prakriti, the Pancha Mahabhut, then Avyaktam, Gyanendriyas, Kamendriyas. But the soul doesn't depend on those 24.
Mhm.
You follow? There's a scale of 7, by the way. You know the scale of 7? Did you notice the scale of 7? The 7 main colors, the 7 tastes. When you in culinary science, there should be 7 tastes on the table. 7 notes in music. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa. 7 is there. 7 main colors, 7 tastes, 7 notes.
Mm.
So in other words, Krishna tells Uddhav, it rings like 216 actually. Tanmatras have no real existence. The object of the senses have no real existence. Whatever we see has no existence. It's a bit like 216 because it's just transformation of the modes. You know what I'm saying? Just like you see in a cloud. Oh, look at the cloud. It looks like a house. Oh, it looks like a person. This is the nose. This is the eyes. And then 5 minutes later, you come back. That cloud is gone. Or the cloud has changed its shape. You follow? So, in other words, the eyes put the color together into forms, which you like to enjoy. Therefore, you accept it as real. You follow the philosophy? You have to go deep. This is Uddhav Gita. Because we want to enjoy a certain combination of the modes, then the eye is going to put the color into particular form so we can enjoy it. But a real yogi who has lost interest in enjoying this world, then what happened to him? Markandeya Rishi, 12th canto. The whole creation breaks down for him very quickly. It has no relevance. He sees for what it is. He has Samadarshanat. He has the vision of Lord Krishna. So the whole material creation breaks down for him. All this, whatever we see, are combinations put up by Maya together. Different combinations of different sense perception. Matras Pashash to Konteya. Shitoshna Sugat Dugodaha. And this is, how deep is this chapter? How deep is this chapter? Finally, 35.
35. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal.
Yeah, so it's a bit like 1510, Jnana Chakshusha. So we have finished this 13th chapter. This is, again, the 6 items of inquiry put up by Arjuna in 13.1. Kshetra, Gyan, Gyayam, Purush and Prakriti, and consciousness. That should be, this chapter is deep, as you have noticed. It should be studied with the help of the Guru, whether Shiksha or Diksha. And we should come back to it regularly. Practically this chapter, in terms of tattva, is the deepest. Other chapters, no doubt, are more bhakti oriented, no doubt. Like chapter 9, chapter 10, chapter 7. But when it comes to tattva, This is the chapter. This is extremely deep. Hare Krishna, anything you want to add up and give the final word? Vignesh.
I just like one last question I would like to ask.
Yeah.
How do you define the difference between the Kshetrajna and Purush? How do you define the difference between them?
Well, as we know, there's two types of Kshetrajna, the Jiva and the Paramatma.
Yeah.
So between the two, normally the real Purush is Paramatma. Because Paramatma is, Krishna says in 1042, by a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. So that single fragment of himself is Purush, is Paramatma, is plenary portion, or at least portion of a portion of a portion, is Kala. So is bound to be called Purush, rightly, I would say, because is Vishnu, Tatwa. And the other fellow, that is us, we are unfortunately Prakriti, but the problem remains, we want to act as a Purush. And this is a dichotomy. Even though we've been trying we are hell-bent on trying since time immemorial, we never succeed. And due to Maya, Maya has two, how do you say, vocation. What are the terms in Sanskrit, Vignesh? Aparashatmika, Shakti, and that she covers you over and she pushes you down.
Throwing potency and covering potency.
Yeah, Avaratmika Shakti is one, and the other I forget. So Maya is like that, she doesn't want you to see for what it is, even through Jnana Shakshu, Shastra Shakshu. We may have some glimpse, now we're having some good glimpse, but what are we going to do next? If we don't act upon this philosophy, immediately Maya will snatch us back to make sure, no, actually you can become Purush. Don't listen too much to Gita. It's fine, it's a good intellectual pursuit. Yes, granted, but you have your way of life also. Don't worry. In time you will understand all these things. So Maya will remove the urgency aspect. Like I just found out 2 devotees have cancer. They were born in 1915. So we always hear, oh, this one has cancer. Kadamba Maharaj, you have seen his talk. He's got cancer.
Yeah.
And he's saying, have you seen the talk? I heard the talk. He's saying, I keep on patting on the back of my visitors, telling them, it's all right. Don't worry, it's all right. He's dying. They're not dying. They're coming to see him to give him some solace, and he ends up patting on their back. It's all right. Don't worry. He's the one dying. And he's saying to them, it's all right. So, he's having the right perception because he knows I'm dying, and he has tried his level best all his life, but it doesn't over-lament over his fate. This is good behavior of his, The main thing is we know the philosophy, but we don't act upon it. Or not enough. Because Maya's purpose is to, even as a devotee, she's still trying to cover us, to separate us from Krishna. We become binadrik. Pritak Bhava means separatist. Yes, Krishna is right, I agree. But since we don't act upon it, there's a separation in action. There's not a separation when we study Gita, everything is fine, we fully agree. We teach and do that and study and all. But on a daily basis, every minute, do we act in unison with Krishna? Or are we a separatist at a particular given moment of the day? If the answer is yes, it means we are still trying to be Purush. So much so that Krishna is calling us Purush. Even himself, Krishna, God himself, is using that term. We could say it's a misnomer. It's not proper. Krishna knows it's not proper, but purposefully is using it because that's what we are. Even though in Tattva we are Prakriti. So he's trying to show us how far, it's a far cry. We are quite a far cry from the reality. This chapter is an eye-opener. It's a far cry. We are quite, it's a far-fetched return. The door, the exit is far-fetched. It can be, in no time we can make it close to us. But again, are we in action, mostly in action? Are we a separatist or not? Prabhupada was never a separatist. So he has been empowered all his life. If we were to become fully Krishna conscious tomorrow or in 10 minutes from now, we'll become no more separatists. Krishna will immediately change the color of our consciousness. So, we revel in these verses. We love it, but do we act upon it?
It is a constant practice.
Yeah.
Because we don't have this intense desire, but the desire will come when our heart gets.
We have to associate with the right persons. We have to associate with Krishna, very Krishna conscious persons. Because they rope you in, they rope you in. That's why we have to go to India very often and, associate, even if they are not in our temples, then we have to, at one point during the year, throughout the year, we should make it a point to spend 1 or 2 months with them to fuel up the proper desire. Otherwise, Maya doesn't discriminate. You may be a sannyasi, you may be, she doesn't give a damn. Oh, you're a senior devotee, who cares for her? There's no problem. Who cares? She's got a whole array. She's got a whole array of tools. She knows what it takes to make us negligent or complacent. She's got a whole array of tools. She's expert.
It's a reminder.
Yeah, certain chapter is
Association.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. I sorry for my extending 20 minutes late as usual.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Anyway, thank you very much. By the way, so I read them all. I read the 4. I'm going to mark them tonight. Before I mark, I always read all the essays of the students, because when you mark, you have to take into account the different levels of the students. How by reading one essay to the next, you see the differences. So tonight itself, I'm going to mark, and you all set for your shloks, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you all set. So only 1 chapter left, and then we'll have the module 2 exam, close board. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Take care.
Hare Krishna.
I'll send you the recording.